Hello to our freaky family. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Kandi.
And this is Sips of Crime. Happy New Year, everybody! Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that it is getting ready to be 2023.
I know. Where has the year went?
The time has just flown. I feel like
we just started this podcast.
Yeah, that's insane. And now we're actually doing our first episode of the new year.
Yeah.
We are actually recording today on New Year's Eve, so we are very exciting. Do you guys have do you guys ever go out? Do you have like a tradition for New Year's?
I mean, we did before we had a child, but no, we're going to probably stay home. And we still have some fireworks left over from July 4th.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So if it quits raining, we might set those off. I mean, it'll be fairly early, so Jacob can get in the bed and we're not.
Oh no, my child is extremely excited to watch the ball drop. She will be up until midnight.
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
he's just not going to make it.
No, I don't think he would. No, but
my 8. I'm going to try, but I might not make it.
Well, everybody, I hope that you guys had a amazing New Year's Eve and are looking forward to a new year. Do you ever set resolutions?
I try, but I feel like mine are more mental resolutions instead of physical.
Yeah.
Last year was definitely, after becoming a new mom in 2020, last year I really wanted to become myself again because I didn't feel like myself.
Yeah.
And do more things that made me happy. And I do feel like I did that for sure last year. I'm going to continue to do that.
Good for you.
I do want to try to lose some weight, but I feel like that's everybody's.
That's everybody's, yeah.
So, I'm gonna try. But I like food and wine, so.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like everybody, I've always, one of my biggest things is I always, throughout the year try to make small changes. Small lifestyle changes. You know what I'm saying? So, instead of committing to a resolution of I'm going to lose this amount of weight or I'm going to, just my goal, I feel always is just to try to live a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so I've always tried to make small changes in my diet or in my routine and stuff like that. And so I don't really necessarily set a resolution, but I'm always setting new goals for myself and my businesses and stuff throughout the year. So, well, talking about living a healthier lifestyle, and also not giving up on the things we love, I think it's time to open up some wine.
Yes.
We are actually going to do some champagne. We've got some bubbly. No, it's barefoot bubbly Prosecco for the new year. So you guys are going to hear that pop. Okay, so prepare yourself.
Of both of us. Try not to get popped in the head.
Cheers. Goodbye to 2022. Hello, 2023.
That's pretty good.
It is good. So barefoot
orange juice would be good on there.
Yes, I love a mimosa.
Well, I like pineapple juice better than orange juice because orange juice gives me heartburn.
That is a good mixer. The Barefoot Bubbly brand of Barefoot makes an actual dry champagne. But the Prosecco, whenever you get the one that says bubbly, it's normally on the sweeter side and less dry.
Yeah.
I have the one I have upstairs is the same one, and it's a peach champagne.
Ooh, you'll have to let me know how that
Yeah.
one is.
I've had it. It's delicious. Oh. It's like a Bellini.
Ooh.
Yes.
I bet that is good. So I figured, what better way to bring in the new year and the second year of Sips of Crime?
Yes.
With an event that happened on New Year's Eve in 1964.
Okay.
So a couple from Rochester were traveling north on Interstate 81, heading to visit some family, when they happened to pull over at a rest stop just north of Bradley Street in Watertown. What they didn't know, only a little bit before their stop, there was a scene of a triple murder.
Oh my.
Grab a glass.
Grab a friend.
And let's dive in. Leona and Peter Egan of Watertown, New York, had 2 sons. Peter Egan, who was born May 15th, 1937, and Gerald, who was born on July 22nd, 1945. So Peter Sr., Peter Jr.
Mm-hmm.
So Peter Sr., who was known to be the town drunk, and his wife was not far behind him in reputation.
Ooh.
They went to bars often, stayed out late, which meant most of their skimpy income was spent on alcohol. So they were a low-income family, but
like everybody in town knew them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because they were the town drunks.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's less than flattering.
Way to go. Well, it wasn't a surprise when the boys grew up and they would become troublemakers. In 1964, Peter, who's now 27 years old at the time, he was the menace of Watertown.
Oh my gosh.
He had already had a long list of criminal charges, which included larceny, drinking and driving, stealing livestock.
Oh my gosh.
And his first arrest was at age 13 for stealing a car.
Oh my Lord.
At the age of 13.
Goodness. And they say our youth is messed up.
Right? And this is 1964. Gerald, of course, followed behind Peter. And he was in his early teens. And by the time he was 19, he had already knew all the tricks of the trade.
Mm-hmm. He took him under his wing and taught him everything.
Just go ahead and show you all this.
Yeah.
He was more sociable than his brother, and his friends remembered him as the class clown.
Another class clown. We remember how that one ended.
Right. So, Peter was considered pretty short at only 5'4", and he had actually lost his left leg back in 1957.
Oh my gosh.
Due to a car accident.
His whole leg.
Yep. He was on his way back from the West Coast heading to New York when he was thrown out of the car, and he was lucky to even survive. It landed him 3 weeks in the hospital, bruised and battered, of course. But after those 3 weeks, he hopped on a train and headed back home to Watertown.
Mm-hmm.
As time went on, his leg was not healing, and he went to go finally get it checked out after, hey, my leg's not working, it's not doing its thing. And once he went to go finally get it checked out, it was riddled with gangrene.
Oh!
And at 19 years old, Peter's leg had to be amputated.
Oh, wow.
He was on crutches and had a wooden stump where his leg used to be, but this didn't hold him back one bit. He was fearless, he was aggressive, getting into fights, and even stated he could outrun any thug in town.
Oh.
Peter met a girl named Barbara Ann Vout at the YMCA dance in Watertown. Barbara was popular at school and was a bright student, well-liked, and even a cheerleader. She played the saxophone in the school band and was a member of the library club. She also worked a part-time job as a store clerk at the W.T. Grant department store. Testimonies from the time say that she was known as one of the prettiest girls in the county.
She sounds like a freaking badass to me.
Right, like she's doing all this stuff.
Oh my gosh, look, that resume that you just listed off.
She
is getting it. Get it, girl.
To be in school, making good grades, a cheerleader, playing the saxophone, you're part of the library club, and had a part-time job.
Come on. I couldn't handle all that now.
Heck no.
You go, girl.
I could not. She had a steady boyfriend named Jerry and was actually getting ready to settle down and get married after graduation. But that all changed when she met Peter.
Oh, no.
Because he was 3 years older than her and the stereotypical bad boy, which Barbara was drawn to, as all girls usually are.
All the good girls are.
Her friends started to notice a nasty streak when she made a habit of stealing the other girls' boyfriends.
Ooh.
It was usually younger boys, and she only did it to infuriate the younger girls. It was literally a power game and nothing else. As soon as she could prove that she could make the boyfriend leave his girlfriend, she would then dump them. Even more concerning behavior started to arise, and she started shoplifting from local stores.
Oh, I don't like her so much anymore.
Since Peter brought out this different side of Barbara, she broke things off with Jerry and started dating Peter.
Bad move. Red flag. Red flag.
Mm-hmm. Very big one. Despise everyone's concerns, and with her parents' hesitant blessing, she became Mrs. Barbara Egan in July of 1958. Of course, her high school friends didn't understand why she chose such a different lifestyle, and this caused her to lose her friends. Barbara didn't seem to care. She was reckless for the first time in her life and loved the excitement of it all. After getting married to Peter, she started up her own rap sheet, and at the age of 22 was charged with forgery. Another time, her and Peter were arrested after a 25-mile high-speed chase, and Barbara was the one driving, with Peter in the passenger seat egging it on.
Oh, no.
I'm like, I read that, and I was like, I be dang if you're going to influence me to run from the cops for 25 miles.
That's a long ways.
Like, absolutely not.
That's awful.
In 1959, Peter and Barbara had their first son, and then they had a second and third son that followed. They would never pay rent, so they were always evicted from places, and the chaotic lifestyle caused them to move around a lot. Barbara's friends that she did have recalled the kids were filthy, always walking around in dirty diapers, living in a house where they had a pet monkey.
What?
And a dog who would just defecate wherever and whenever, which of course stunk up the entire house.
We're just going to skip. Everybody's just skipping over this monkey. What? I'm sorry. They had a pet monkey?
Yep.
And it shit everywhere.
Along with the dog.
Along with the dog.
Yep. And we didn't clean it up. We didn't pay our rent. We got evicted and
they...
How do you have a pet monkey?
I was going to say, where do you get a pet monkey? I wouldn't even know where to start.
I mean, I have seen, like, on TikTok and stuff of people having monkeys, but, like, I don't know if I'd want a pet monkey.
Oh my gosh.
I just don't know about that.
Okay.
But they had one, so.
A monkey.
I mean, it doesn't sound like it was in the best home life anyway, but who knows?
Okay.
Local businesses banned the Egan kids from their stores because they were known to cause havoc, and that Barbara was actually using them as a distraction so she could shoplift.
Oh, God.
Peter had become known as a chronic drug user because of the pain he dealt with from his leg. He shared his prescription painkillers like morphine and all those lovely things with his wife, and this led them to using narcotics. Of course. So, of course, the more drugs they did, the more erratic their behavior became. Peter was often in jail, and Barbara would talk to him from the street by shouting through the fence.
Oh, Lord. Can you imagine?
I'm just picturing...
Like your roommate or like the guy next to you just being pissed off. Like, shut up.
Like, but what could you possibly talk about that you're shouting?
That's ridiculous.
From the street at the jail. Like, I just picture...
Yeah, the mental picture in my head
of her shouting ridiculous. At this window. I didn't do it. What? I don't know.
Tell them I'm innocent, Barbara.
Have you paid my bill? I just don't.
Why am I still in here, Barbara? I don't know. Oh, God. Okay.
Oh, God.
That's terrible and very erratic. You're correct.
He would spend a few weeks behind bars due to drunk driving or assault. Barbara did come to realize that this was not the life she wanted to live, but Peter was not going to be left by his wife.
Well, that's what they were shouting back and forth then right there.
Maybe.
I'm not living like this anymore.
You get your shit together. I don't know. So, because, he was not going to be left by his wife. Absolutely not.
Not an option.
You're not going to do that to Peter. He kept her high and drunk most of the time and would beat her till she complied to do whatever he wanted her to do, to stay with him, or whatever it might be. I would have left your ass in jail.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be going to talk to you.
No, I would not be coming to shout from the street to talk to you.
I came to this realization that this was not the life I wanted to live.
Yeah.
I'd be dang if we're going to talk.
No. Oh, gosh.
Well, in the time leading up to New Year's Eve in 1964, homes and businesses around town were being robbed like never before. The town where everyone knew each other had since turned into a place where they did not feel safe, and people started locking their doors for the first time. Peter and Gerald Egan were responsible for this, but apparently there was not enough evidence to charge them. It was known they did not work alone and were actually part of a robbery ring. They were criminals and did their jobs together most of the time. Peter and Gerald's friend, James Pickett, always had something going on and was always keeping score. He actually didn't come off as a common criminal, and this gave him a captivating personality that put people at ease. So he was able to...
He was a charmer.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, he was able to charm his way in.
Yes.
And then he had these backup people to come do his dirty work. Their other friend, Willard Belcher, he was a 49-year-old who sometimes worked as a truck driver, but he found that robbing was way more profitable.
Profitable, yeah. I would assume so.
You know.
It normally tends to be the lure of that profession, isn't it?
He was married to a woman named Bertha.
Bertha?
They had multiple run-ins with the law.
Of course they did.
She owned a cleaning business.
Of course she did.
And when it informed the crew, this robbery ring crew, so, Willard, James, Peter, Gerald, of these valuable items in the client's home.
This is turning into a whole operation.
Yes.
Like, this is turning into Ocean's 11 over here. You got Bertha involved, being your informant, letting you know it's time to go.
Right. Along with Joe, Leon.
Oh, they have a Joe now.
Who was Peter Egan's childhood friend, growing up just a few houses away from each other. Joe was popular as a kid, but eventually became a big player in the robbery ring with Peter and Gerald. So you have James, Willard, Peter, Gerald, Joe. Yeah. And then Barbara. And Bertha.
And Barbara. Bertha and Barbara.
So they were all in this together. And they would make good money from their jobs, but Peter would spend his share as quickly as he got it. Being generous with buying rounds of drinks at the bars, loaning out money to friends. On paper, both Peter and Barbara were unemployed and received welfare help. Despite the money coming in from being thieves, they continued their habit of not paying rent. Peter, who always wanted more, decided that pimping out his own wife would lead to some more income.
Perfect. Yeah, that's the way to fix that problem.
He would set up the meetings, and he would only give the green light if he felt like the situation was safe. If Barbara would flirt with the man, or any man really, Peter would start a fight. He was always fighting, always stealing, always high on painkillers. Most of the time. During this tailspin of his life, he really had no regard for others and would rob anyone, down to his friend's family. Peter and Gerald broke into the parents of his childhood friend Joe, broke into his parents' home, stealing more than $700 in cash and Joe's mother's diamond ring, which was a family heirloom.
Of course it was.
Joe's father knew the Egan boys were to blame and was pissed. He met with Joe and told him to set the friends straight. Joe then told all their close associates of this robbery ring of what the Egan brothers did and vowed that he was going to put Peter in his place. Well, Peter felt the heat within the circle, but he was more concerned about the FBI because his brother, Gerald, had traded a Jeep for a '62 Chevy convertible, which, you guessed it, was stolen by some thugs down in Miami.
Of course.
And if a stolen car crosses state lines, it becomes a federal crime.
Yep, we learned that with Bundy, I think.
Yes.
No, Charles Manson.
Yes.
Yeah, he was the one that kept driving the stolen cars.
Gerald had took the car to a farmer and asked him to fix the fuel pump. And it was no rush. Just take your time. Because it's stolen. Which, of course, he didn't tell him that. But because he told the farmer there was no rush, this caused the farmer to question why. And then he ended up alerting the FBI.
Okay.
Well, this commenced surveillance on the Egan brothers. So, they've heard that they've been stealing.
Right.
They heard that they're the cause of all this chaos in town. You possibly have a stolen car.
Right.
Let's go ahead and watch them and see what we can get.
Scope them out.
Right. Well, after Christmas in 1964, Peter and Gerald were seen at their regular spot, a diner called Red Moon Diner on the Lower Court Street. Rumors that a hit had been taken out on Peter's life, he became very anxious. Apparently, on December 31st, he went around asking if anyone had a shotgun he could borrow. When people asked if he was in trouble or what was going on, he admitted to robbing some homes that he shouldn't have. This was completely out of character for Peter to openly admit that he had done something wrong. No one was able to help him, and he left the hangout spot unarmed.
That's normally a red flag.
Right.
Whenever you got a friend looking for a gun.
Right. And admitting that you did something wrong.
Right. I'm red flag.
Right. So, thank God, nobody gave him a gun.
Yeah, I'm so glad that nobody decided to help him out with that.
But before leaving, Peter's friend James Pickett approached him about a job going down that night and asked if he wanted in on it. The job was to assist James and Joe in hijacking a truck carrying $16,000 worth of liquor to Canada.
Ooh.
They had a whole plan, and it was going to be a simple job, making about $1,000 apiece. Peter thought that perhaps this was miraculous, that he could repay the person hunting him down. And so Peter went and rounded up his brother, Gerald. Although he couldn't say no, Gerald didn't want to go, but Peter insisted. Gerald figured the job wouldn't take long because Peter and Barbara were going to ring in the new year at the Watertown Bowl.
Could you, okay, just stop right there. Can you imagine, like, these brothers and their life of crime? These are normal conversations that they're having. Like, oh, you need to rob a truck that's carrying $16,000 worth of liquor. Yeah, I'll help you do that, but, I got to be home by, probably 9-ish because we're getting that New Year's party started.
Right. Yeah, like this is just casual conversation.
A casual conversation.
That's
like, nah, brother, I got you. We'll be home way before that.
I got this offer. You've got to come help me on it. We're going to make some money, and then we'll be back home to watch the ball drop.
Like, I just can't imagine. These are just normal conversations that are happening in this family. I'm sorry. Please continue.
Gerald didn't think it was going to take long. Peter and Barbara were going to go ring in the new year at the Watertown Bowl, which I assume was the bar.
Yeah.
It sounds like fish bowl, but whatever.
It's a bar.
Yeah. Peter, Barbara, and Gerald left the Red Moon Diner around 7 p.m. and headed out of town to Interstate 81 northbound. With the kids dropped off at some friends.
Oh, that's right. They've got to drop the kids off first.
Yeah,
before that's so responsible.
I mean,
before we go and commit crime, we've got to find somebody to watch the kids. Peter, who do you got?
I'm surprised they didn't just leave them at home.
Oh, thank God.
I'm really surprised. When I read that, I was like,
At least they dropped him off with a babysitter before going and committing crime.
Well, Barbara, she still had her curlers in her hair, so she could get ready for the party. I mean, so, she'd be ready for the party.
Be bothered.
No, but she went with them, with her curlers in her head, and they headed out to the rest stop that they picked to meet James and Joe to hijack this truck full of liquor.
Please tell me that there's been a movie that's been made.
I wish. I think there might be. Okay, so they all were leaving to go meet...
After dropping the kids off.
Yep. They were going to go meet James and Joe to hijack this truck full of liquor at a pre-picked rest stop. But before they could ring in the new year, they were ambushed, and none of them would live to see 1965. Bill and Beverly J. were the couple heading to Norwood from Rochester, planning to ring in the new year with their family. Bill pulled over at the rest stop just past the Bradley Street off-ramp. As he got out, he walked past the Egan's Mercury station wagon and noticed the windows were fogged up. At first, he turned his head because he assumed it was a lover's encounter. It's New Year's.
Yeah, getting it on in the car.
Let's just go use the bathroom and mind our business. But then he saw Barbara laying on the ground next to the car. He went closer, thinking maybe she was sick or she had tripped. But then he saw all the blood and realized she was dead. On the backseat of the car was a little dog of Barbara and Peter's.
A dog?
Yeah, they took their dog.
They took their dog to the crime scene. Okay.
Yeah, the dog was going to help them jack this truck.
Had to go bring the dog.
Well, the dog's barking. It's distressed because it just witnessed
everything. Oh, that poor animal. What a sad
its owners, get murdered.
What a sad fluffer.
Bill ran back to his car, making sure not to touch anything, sped off to the nearest farmhouse.
Bill's just a passerby.
Yeah.
He's not associated.
No.
He rolled up on the scene.
He went to the rest stop because they were on their way to
like
their
you said, had to pee and found them. Okay.
And now his whole New Year's has jacked the fuck.
Yes.
So, he goes to the nearest farmhouse where he calls the police, and then the police ask him and his wife to meet them at the police headquarters, and they would all go to the scene together.
Wow, things would have been so different now.
Right. I'm like, why are we doing all this traveling? Why don't we all just meet at the rest stop?
Come to the rest stop.
Many police officers were at a house party, bringing in the new year. But as soon as word of the shooting came in, they all got organized, and some went to the rest stop while some set up roadblocks. News of the murders.
So you're telling me that all the cops... this little town, we're all at a Christmas party, hanging out, when they all get this call.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, you're describing a movie. I don't believe you anymore.
I really stopped for a minute. I was like, is this really true? Like, wait a minute. And it is.
Okay, I believe you now. They were all at a party, and they got this call, so some of them went to, and then others went to set up the roadblocks.
Yep. News of the murders made the headlines the very same night, and the Egan's mother, Leona, was in a bar. It's not funny. She was in a bar when she heard the news that her sons had been murdered. And, of course, she began to wail of sorrow.
Oh, no, of course.
And so she's in the bar,
boo-hooing,
everybody's like, what the heck,
Mm-hmm.
The crime scene was strangely quiet. This part of I-81 was actually still fairly new, and not many cars would have used that route that night. There were no footprints at the scene, and no witness saw the shooting. It seemed like the killers disappeared from thin air. In thin air. Police found Peter and Gerald in the front seat with gunshot wounds to the head. Gerald was shot in the left temple and in the neck. Peter received 2 gunshots to the ear, one bullet going through his head and out his right ear. The pathologist guessed that he had turned his head to look at his killer. Barbara was also shot in the head and appeared that she tried to outrun the shooter, but they caught up with her and dragged her back to the car by her hair. Curlers were on the ground as she lay face down in the snow-covered gravel. She was wearing a green coat and one boot. The other boot was found a short distance away from the car. Her autopsy showed bruising to her right foot and left knee, as well as her back. She also had a cut above her right ear, indicating that she had been pistol whipped. Shot execution style in the back of the head and was dragged back to the car. There was a trail of blood leading from her boot to the car, and that's how police came to this conclusion.
Sure.
They determined that the 3 victims died around 7:30 p.m. The use of 2 weapons strongly suggests that there was more than one killer. Peter and Gerald were killed with a .25 caliber pistol, while Barbara was shot with a .38. The scene showed a total of 9 gunshots that were fired in the course of the attack, 6 of which hit the victims, 3 from the .25 caliber, and 6 from the .38 chasing after Barbara. Police did retrace the last steps of the Egans and discovered that they had stopped at the Greens gas station on their way out, and bought 2 pairs of gloves. There was only 1 pair at the crime scene, and they felt like if they could find the other pair, they would find the killer. Then they thought maybe if they could present a suspect to the only witness, the Egan's dog Queenie, she might act aggressively toward them, because she would sense, I guess, that, hey, this is the person that killed them.
Okay. I thought you were about to tell me that they took the dog in as a witness.
Sadly, they didn't get a chance to, because the dog was taken in by the aunt of the brothers, and 2 weeks after the murders was ran over by a car in front of the aunt's house in Watertown.
Kandi, what? I don't think that we need to include that kind of negative stuff in our stories.
Well, they were going to use the dog as a witness, because it was the only witness. Now tell me, even if they did this, Michelle, and she did act aggressively to someone, how does that justify that they killed them?
I'm picturing this in court right now with a judge. In my head, I'm picturing Judge Judy. But, I mean, in all reality, it could be anybody. Utilize whoever your favorite one is. But, like, you've got this police officer.
The dog's on the stand.
Who's like, no, you don't understand. The dog acted aggressively towards the defendant. Clearly signifying that is the killer. I can't, and I'm
What if they were aggressive to everybody? You gonna arrest everybody?
You're making this story up.
I swear to God, I'm not. Swear I'm not.
Okay. Curlers are everywhere. They're dead. Execution style.
Yes.
Shot to the head. Not able to take the dog in for questioning because the poor animal was run over by a car.
Yes.
Am I up to speed?
Yes. As far as the children, they were taken to a rehab facility since clearly there were signs of neglect. They never resurfaced, and it's believed that their names were changed and they were moved out of state for their own protection.
Okay. Well, that's probably the best thing for the kids.
Right. I would probably not want any association with that either. There was an open casket funeral on January 5th, 1965. They aren't sure if this was the family that wanted to show how brutal the killings were or why it was decided to be an open casket. However, after the killings, many of the criminals were admitting to the robberies, and this is how it was determined the Egans had been involved in so many of the robberies. Mm-hmm. The spike of the robberies ended, and everyone came to understand the Egans were the cause of the havoc on the city. Police came to learn about the place of the hijacking, and that it was James Pickett who put the Egans onto it. James didn't talk at first, but then revealed that he knew, stating he did not go to the location that night, and when he learned of the ambush, blamed Joe. But James did state that when he told Joe about the ambush, he acted genuinely surprised. 5 months later, Joe was the prime suspect, and police had him take a polygraph, which did show that he was practicing deception. But this was not enough to build a case against him. Suspicion alone cannot convict a man. In the end, it took 3 years to gather enough evidence to arrest the then 36-year-old Joe for the Egan murders. His wife Bertha was also arrested due to James stating that she ran the show and was the one who got rid of the evidence, the bloody clothes, the weapons. But in the end of everything, Bertha was only charged with accessory to murder, and Joe was acquitted of all charges on April 5th, 1970. Everything was solely based on the testimony of James Pickett. To this day, the shoulder of I-81, just up from Bradley Street off-ramp, is referred to as Egan Rest Area. The case is closed and is labeled as unsolved, and most people believe that the authorities chose to turn a blind eye to the criminals and basically saying they were just sorting out their differences. They deserved it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
James Pickett also changed his story multiple times, even 40 years later, was changing his story. One theory was that Barbara knew about it, and she was supposed to
get away.
Yeah, and then there was one that Barbara was supposed to go up to another car, and all of a sudden she came back, and the Peter and Gerald were dead, and there's different theories. But in reality, clearly, it had to have been Joe and James, because they're the ones that told him about it.
Yeah, that was a really interesting story.
Here is Barbara, Peter, and Gerald. That you can barely make it out, but that is Joe.
Okay.
Leon.
Okay, well, it looks like the documentary and the movie are both called The Egan Murders.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you if they're on Netflix or anything like that, but something tells me that they would make a very interesting.
And it says The Egan Murders, Trouble in North Country documentary, based on the book Egan Murders, Nightmare on New Year's Eve by Dan Boyer and Dave Sharpine.
Okay. It looks like they're both titled The Egan Murders. I'm sure that if you type that into Netflix...
Don't stop at any restaurants tonight, guys.
Stop at any restaurants tonight if you're traveling. Well, I hope that you guys have a fantastic New Year's. We're so very excited to see what 2023 has in store for us. We do have some stuff that are kind of working on the back end, so we just appreciate everybody who has shown us support, and we're just super excited to keep this going and kind of see where it takes us. I hope that you guys got your So Merry It's Scary pajamas for Christmas. If you guys didn't, they will stay up on our merch page, and you can find that at sipsofcrime.com. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Cheers to you again. I love you.
I love you.
Have a great one. Bye. You can join our freaky little family both on Instagram and Facebook and find all of the featured photos from this episode
at Sips of Crime.
For a chance to have your story featured on one of our future episodes, send us a Gmail
to sipsofcrime@gmail.com.
And you can find all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, we would really appreciate you giving us a 5-star review because it really helps other people find our podcasts and our episodes. Thanks for listening. Stay alive.